For more on what experts are calling an epic yard sale, we're now joined by Harris Ikonomopoulos. He's the organizer of a conference here in London that's pitching Greece's privatization program. Welcome, Harris. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
In terms of who you're actually hoping to sell a lot of these assets for, why London? Is it to attract actually the European buyers? I mean, when Dubau was here, that's who I would have tried to I guess, woo, because they have more money, and he clearly stated his support for Europe.
Well, actually, it's the 9th annual conference in London from the British Hellenic Chamber of Commerce. And we're not pitching for sales. We're just giving the floor to the government to present their own privatization plan, while at the same time we're discussing the social and institutional reforms that are necessary in order to avoid social unrest and take the country forward. This austerity plan is merely, to my eyes, as a credibility pitch, a double credibility pitch, both from the Greek government that wants to prove that they can say something and do it, and also from our creditors' governments that need to go back with the loot to their respective parliaments and prove that they have forced Greece to sell in a fire sale in order for them to look good to their own electorates.
Talking about credibility, Greece wants to raise some 50 billion euros. That's not a credible figure, is it?
Well, it is not a credible austerity plan from a creditor to try to put a dairy farm to slaughter its means of production. It doesn't make any banking sense to fire sale your assets just to try and make a couple of interest payments. So I may consider this as a valid statement, but on the other hand, please consider that what is important now is not what is going to come in the coffers of the state from the sale of the assets, but just the mere fact that they're going to say it and they're going to do it.
But hold on, it's going to be much more easy for someone like Germany, Angela Merkel, to go back to their public, basically asking the taxpayers to support Greece and the rest of the Eurozone by saying, well, at least they're doing their bit, they're selling stuff, you know, they're selling their state jewels, because otherwise you have a situation where it's going to be very difficult for the European governments to go back to their own people and say, well, we're supporting them, but they're not doing anything.
Let's not forget that we're talking about politicians in every country. We're talking about people whose major occupation in the past 30 years of their lives has been just being in politics. I'm not sure that they're quite related to the means of production and the ways that money is being made. So these are the balances that need to keep back home, as well as we need, as any government in Greece would need to keep at home. The main target is that we need to go forth with the necessary institutional reforms in a very fast-track manner that will allow the whole potential of the Greek human resources, the potential of the material resources to flourish.
You're almost suggesting this is more of a political, institutional crisis than a fiscal one.
But it is one, and it's just a merely Greek one. Yeah. Greece is in the center of a cyclone of a European institutional crisis. Europe had decided to integrate and is just looking back and forth to see which step to go. As long as this political crisis remains, the financial crisis will be the symptom and not the cause of the illness.
I understand that it is a political crisis on top, but you still have in Greece a GDP and actually a debt to ratio to GDP, which is huge, 150.
We have actually 330 billion euros of debt, out of which 211 billion euros are rollover loans to cover interest due since 1975. We do have a GDP of about 145 billion euros, but mind you, we have a very unfriendly business environment. Imagine what would happen to Greece, and you can envisage Greece, if the environment became business-friendly, if we boosted growth, if we didn't have a tax burden of over 85% for businesses that are paying their dues. And I'm speaking about tax, income tax, corporate income tax, personal income tax, and cash flow advances to a state that consumes money just to pay a very ineffective governance system. We need to change the ineffective governance system in order to boost growth, and then you will see what rates our creditors are going to be lending Greece with.
You're talking about a revolution.
No, I'm talking about reason.
Evolution. I mean, you know, you've got the Papandreou facing the vote in Parliament today. That is the government that you've got. We've got strikers, 48-hour strike at the moment. Where do you see this going? What do you think would happen if Papandreou doesn't get this through and Greece has to default?
Well, we've plunged many cataclysms without heed, and we've kept thousands of years afloat on this balmy boat. Greece is not going to lose its posture because a vote will not pass in Parliament. We hope that the vote will pass, but at the end of the day, Greece represents less than 0.2% of the international GDP. I can hardly believe
That's not the key, though, is
that
it?
such a country could destabilize the entire universe.
Yeah, but billions have been poured into this country already by the European Union. But Harris, I just really want to get your view, actually, on the asset sales. Do you think they'll be sold? And if they'll be sold, will it have to be some European government saying, well, we're going to help you out because it's all in my interest, because I also have the euro? Or is it going to be because people actually find a lot of value in assets held by the Greek government?
Well, make me a profit, I'll make you rich. The only thing I know is that since the government has committed to a fire sale, to a distress sale by certain deadlines, well, they would even need to give them away just to convince the creditors that we did our job.
And so there's going to be a buyer for them?
Well,
If
hopefully
it's a good
after
price.
today, and after the rating agencies join us and explain to us, after ride the bikes to the Claridges at 9 o'clock, why is Greece rated below many Central African countries, then maybe this question will be answered.
We'll have to get you back on to answer that question.
Yes, exactly. Harris, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for joining
you.
us here on Countdown.